Everybody, welcome to the Arkansas Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson. I'm Jason Patterson. I want to thank y'all for joining us today. It is Sunday, September 8th, and it is a beautiful, glorious day out here. I'm going to have to say it's top 10 weather day, 69 degrees right now. Humidity's low, and the sun is shining. And I'm going to tell you what, uh, probably the best weather you could have for baseball. And, you know, Dudley, the thing is that whenever you have days like this, you just can't help but stay outside.
I hear you. It is a good day. I'm going to tell you, I'm doing better than Tariq Hill. Not as good as Dak Prescott.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, it's going to be interesting. Our boss, the wonderful Lanny Beavers, is not as big a Dak fan as I am. So I'm
Uh,
sure we're going to have some discussions on that later on today.
yeah.
But I'm glad that Dak's getting paid. I think he's a great representative for the team and organization, and now they just need to win. And and like Stephen A. Smith, I don't blame it all on Dak. He needs to play better, obviously in the playoffs,
Yep.
but they need to keep him from getting sacked. Need to not give up 45 to Jordan Love and all those type of things. But I've got the Dak shirt on. So support, and we get great stuff from Lanny hats, shirts, and all that. Certainly, we get our publicity, for Hogville. But it's to me, it's the start of football season today. So
Yeah.
had to break out the Dak shirt.
Yeah, and I feel like we've kind of been had the appetizer for the first 2 weeks of college football. Um, we'll get into that here in a little bit because I want to discuss the Razorback game yesterday. I think that there were some positives. There was also some negatives that came out of that. I feel like the sample size that we've had over the first 2 weeks kind of is led to having a clearer picture of exactly what this team is and what fans should expect versus last year where everything was so convoluted. There were so many things that you could see, but you weren't quite understanding what was behind the scenes. I think this year it's very transparent, and I feel like I've got some notes that I wrote down, and we'll go over those in a little bit. So you were at Bomb Stadium the last couple of days because Ball's here. Tell us a little bit about what all you kind of took in over the last 2 days.
Great weather out there as well. The last 2 days, it was good to be back at Bomb and really good to see the new guys. Obviously I've seen the returnees and obviously some of them have gotten better, but it was great to see the new guys. And I'm going to tell you the most impressive thing I saw all weekend was Brent Iredale, a junior college transfer. He played third base this weekend. He played that in college, had 42 home runs during his junior college career. 75 RBIs just last year alone, and every ball he hit this weekend was barreled up. Had 2 home runs, a couple of doubles, even his outs were loud, and played a really good third base as well. He was the person who I think stood out the most for me. Although there were, as we were talking Friday on the phone, as you were getting ready to go to Oklahoma State, the ball was just flying out of the ballpark on Friday. 10 home runs. So many that I lost one in the fray there. I thought there were 9, but there were 10 home runs. Several of the newcomers hit them. Yesterday, 5-1, the great team kind of evened up the series there. There were still a couple of home runs, but they kept the ball in the ballpark yesterday morning. And very, very early 9:30 start, but I enjoyed that. Got back and got to watch the football game, and obviously did a story on Coach Gundy and his comments, which is for some reason was appearing on the Picture Nation, but on our site. I'm going to go back in here in a minute and try to get it back on our site. But he was very complimentary of Arkansas, and also very complimentary of his coaches that made adjustments at halftime, and they certainly did that. You can say Arkansas outcoached them in the first half. Maybe they outcoached Arkansas in the second half. But in the end, whether you're at home and especially if you're on the road, if you have 3 turnovers and they score points off all of them, you're going to end up losing, and they're most likely going to end up losing. And I saw a lot of things to like, saw some things that they needed to do better. I don't think it's going to switch the camps either way. If you're positive Pittman or negative Pittman, I think that you can find things to bring to your side. Coach Trio's offense was really good in the first half. not as good in the second half. And that had to do with Oklahoma State making adjustments, but Arkansas also not executing as well as it did in the first half, not owning the line of scrimmage like it did in the first half. I mean, they really owned that line of scrimmage in the first half.
Good Lord. Well, they had 144 yards rushing in the first quarter, or 114 yards rushing in the first quarter. And it sort of started to translate into the second quarter a little bit. I think that Oklahoma State kind of picked up the defensive intensity, and instead of just kind of lagging back and letting Taylor Green have some real estate, which he was gashing him with. I feel like they brought the heat and started having some more problems with that, and I think that that's something that Petrino is going to have to address later on. With fall ball, yesterday and Friday, you and I were kind of talking about Friday evening. You said that there's been quite a lot of more of a power surge at the plate, and off of some pretty decent pitching too. And I think that that's something that has carried over from what has happened during the summer over into fall, which is what I'm hoping, and I'm sure you are too, is that it translates into the spring.
Yeah, and they were stealing a lot of bases too, or attempting to steal and stealing some, getting thrown out others. But yes, there was a definite power. I want to say again that if you got the ball up in the air, it was flying out on Friday because there was a big wind aid going on there. But it is clear that they went out to get guys that could both hit for power, hit for average, and run the bases. Because Van Horn, during his pre-fall press conference, talked about how they wanted to go out and find different ways to score runs outside of the Earl Weaver, 3-run home runs and do all that. So it's a small sample size for those 2 days, obviously, but I like to see people barreling balls up. And I can't say that I saw that a lot last year during fall ball as much as certainly I did the other day.
Yeah. And
I wouldn't worry too much about the pitching now. I will say Gabe Gackle had only give up one home run in 42 2/3 innings last year. Gave up 3 in the first inning of fall ball, but I'm sure he's working on some new stuff. And like I said, if it got up in the air, it was going out. But the pitching is, you could see a lot of the youngsters, the returnees as well. There were a lot of good pitches they made, but if they made a mistake, it left the yard.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's nice to see that he's getting a start versus, coming out of the bullpen with the guys that Dave has brought in and during the offseason. I wasn't sure how much of a run Gabe was going to get as a starter in the fall ball. With him being getting that start on Friday, it kind of leads me to believe that that's kind of where Dave's wanting to kind of pencil him in at, and then sprinkle the rest of the guys around him after that.
Yeah, I think they've got maybe 6 or 7 starter types. Now, a couple of those are freshmen that showed well over the weekend. But you obviously brought in 3 portal transfer guys, all here, projected to be in the top 5 of the top 5 rounds of the draft next year. At least at this point, we'll see how things go along. Mm-hmm. Certainly over the fall and into the spring, there were lots of fans there, but also tons of scouts there as well. And that usually tells me how interested these guys are in what Arkansas brought in. And you had a chance to talk with some of them as the two games went on, 2 scrimmages, whatever you want to call them, and they're excited about Arkansas's talent. That usually is more of an indicator to me than coaches and fans and all that. What do those scouts think? And they were impressed with Iredale and some of the others that saw this week. And Justin Thomas, by the way, is outfielder that he played center field during the scrimmages. He hit in some tough luck. You could see him barreling up some things too. Didn't get a hit, but he hit in some tough luck. They're much more athletic, versatile offense. It appears to me this year.
Yeah, and in the last couple of years, have you noticed there being more scouts this year, maybe than the last couple of years, or has it been kind of around the same number?
Well, there were always scouts, tons of scouts when Hagan pitched. Not always the same amount when somebody else was pitching, although, they would do their due diligence during the fall. But there was an overwhelming amount of them there the past 2 days. had them a little scout section going on there. I of course took out. I always take out my St. Louis Cardinal chair and St. Louis Cardinal table and set up shop there when the press box is closed, as it was this weekend, because the SID folks and Oliver Grigg does a great job, obviously, for Arkansas in that regard. He was over in Oklahoma State, helping with their communications staff over there. But it's I'm I don't need to go out there every day, I think, but I'm anxious to get back out there. Got some other stuff to write about as well too, but anxious to get back out there because baseball's always been my first love, without a doubt. If my dad hadn't put me on the tractor when I was 12, I'd still be playing. Well, I'd probably be playing second base for the Cardinals because I think Aaron Otto does a pretty good job there at third, and Mason Wynn's been a really good choice. But I think I could play second still.
I think that you could have been the David Eckstein before David Eckstein.
Definitely back at my playing weight back in the day. I'm going to take some pride. My wife has done a great job with helping me get on a good nutrition plan. I've lost close to 30 pounds now. Could not wear the shirt I had on last year, and was able to put it on this morning. That's a win.
That right there. That's a huge pat on the back, man. And congratulations on that.
Thanks to my beautiful wife, Petra. Thanks to the makers of Ozempic, and thanks to healthy food.
Yeah, man. Hey, it also helps whenever you got somebody that can help you stay on that track too, because trying to do something like that, and I've had a lot of weight gain and weight loss in my life, and doing it by yourself is very, very difficult, and keeping yourself on track is always hard. And whenever you have somebody that's helping you and supporting you and stuff, that always is. Honestly, I think it's more the X factor.
Yeah, and you've never seen anybody so happy to be at 223. Started this latest journey in the 250s. The highest I've ever been was 275 after my mom and brother died in that car accident, and obviously just kind of let myself go with grief and all that. But feeling good at 223. As I said, better than Tyreek Hill, but not as good as Dak Prescott.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, with Dak, is it 231 million guaranteed over the 4 years, and then 240 total.
Lunch is on Dak. And now comes the big question. You've got CD Lamb signed. You've got Dak Prescott signed.
Micah Parsons.
You're saving money by not going out and getting a running back. You brought in some what can only be described as retreads.
Yeah.
I know Ezekiel Elliott's starting today. He's been great for the organization over the years, but we all remember how his 2-3 yards average his last year there in Dallas. Rico Dowdle has the young legs. He may be their best option there, but obviously they're going to do it by committee with that, with Alvin Clark as well. And you can't forget about former Arkansas assistant football coach Chris Vaughn's son, Deuce Vaughn, who I'm sure will be getting a lot of those things this year that Tony Pollard did, the previous years.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of a Darren Sproles type. He has the same body type, same height, maybe a little lighter than what him or Maurice Jones-Drew were. Those guys were kind of like bowling balls. He's more of a scat back, but I think that he's one of those guys that you can get lost behind a couple of big uglies and then just kind of pop out and gain 10, 15, 20 yards.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, when the new baseball rules came in the pros in college, I was not in favor of them. I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with the wheel.
Yeah.
But this kickoff stuff is just stupid to me so far. I don't see where it's going to diminish injuries. I don't see where it's making the game more exciting. They're just going to be running into each other with a shorter path.
Yeah.
Do just as much damage in 3 feet as you can in 30 or 3 yards.
And I think that there's something that to be said with the whole touchback rule versus getting a safety, because I think I think we're going to see something like that today with what happened with Kansas City in their last preseason game, where the ball bounced out or in the end zone, but then back, but then the kick returner thought that it was dead, which it was not dead. Mm-hmm. And then the receiving team picked it up and received 2 points for that. And I think that that's something that might happen because in the heat of battle, whenever you're out there and you're focused on, okay, I'm not catching the ball. Okay, what am I doing next? Instead of finishing the play. I think that that's something that might happen today.
Yeah, and we talk about these games, no matter the sport, being a game of inches. A lot of times, that certainly was on Thursday night. Two I thought pretty good games
Mm-hmm.
this weekend. The pros to get them going, and looking forward to watching. I am one of the people before I knew. Just got lucky on this. Had switched from direct TV stream back to YouTube.
Ooh, got lucky.
Yeah, and didn't even know that negotiations were going on, and certainly I think we survived that half the price. And it's not an ad for YouTube, but if it was, if they want to pay, I'll talk more about it.
Oh, same here. I mean, hey, we're always looking for a great sponsor, and YouTube TV would be a great sponsor for the Arkansas Diamond Report. I'd love to talk to them because I bet you we could probably sell something to them.
Yeah, Patriot was taking pictures last night. We had 11 different baseball and football games on 3 different TVs in the living room last night with the quad looks going. So
Dude, these are great.
that's somebody could say that's too much, but that's research, and also that's staying home and not spending money.
Exactly. Yep. And speaking of staying home, Arkansas comes back to Fayetteville to host UAB for their first home game, true home game of the.
On campus is how is I hear a lot of people saying the on campus opener is what I hear it now. It's going to be interesting. Next
Yeah.
year, the second game is against Arkansas State in Little Rock. We'll know, as far as we know, there will be no game in Arlington because that contract runs out this year.
Yep.
So they'll get back to it. It was funny listening to Rick Schaefer talk yesterday on the pregame for the Arkansas game, Arkansas Oklahoma State game, that back in the day, Coach Broyles was adamant about having 7 home games, 4 in Little Rock, 3 in Fayetteville. Obviously, the Fayetteville Stadium has been revamped since then. But it's nuts that you used to have 7 home games back in the day, and now you only have 1 on-campus game in the first 5. So it's the schedule's messed up, and they're trying to get a handle on it, and here you go with the 8 games in the SEC right now. Some people are talking about 9. That would further complicate things from what it used to be back in the day. But we're just bouncing all over the place today, aren't we?
Man, we kind of are. But hey, there's a lot of stuff going on. You have Major League Baseball that's going to be wrapping up the season here within the next 25 days. You've got college football starting, NFL starting, Razorback, soccer, fall baseball. I mean, there's honestly there's a 45-day window where it is a sports lover's paradise, and right now we are starting to enter into that 45-day window because have playoff baseball on top of everything that we just talked about. Oh, and by the way, college basketball should be starting up next month as well. So and NBA for that matter. So when you start to look at that 45-day window, yeah, we're going to be all over the place because quite honestly, there is just so much information that we can only talk about in a certain time frame. So we kind of got to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do for our content. I'm trying to do some different things with notebooks now. There's so many women's sports going on right now as well. I try to do a notebook about them each week. I'm trying to do that, trying to give everybody some love, but you run out of time and you run out of space every once in a while. So I'm trying to do some things with touching on everything and maybe not writing as long as stories on one particular sport, and trying to give everybody some love. We have a very hardworking staff here, and we're trying to get as much stuff as we can to people, as much coverage. If anybody has ideas, they certainly can pass them along, and we'll try to incorporate them. But I mean, I think we wrote about 14 of the 19 sports that are going on right now at the university last week. So
yeah. That's an insane amount of sports. Not only that, but just the fact that it's free content. That's the
I was going to say that also would always want us to point out it's free. So
always free. Also, speaking of content, make sure that you'll whenever you get into the YouTube channel, hit the like and subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner, and so that way you can stay up to date with all the free information that we have to offer between Dudley, Otis, Kevin, myself. We got you covered with everything that you need to know. So I want to go over this. Last night I got home from Stillwater, and we talked about it just at the very first, that there were some thoughts that I had, and I kind of want to hash these out with you for just a minute, because I feel like that the picture that we see with the team this year is a lot clearer than what we saw last year. We knew that there was something going on. We weren't quite sure exactly what was going on. This year we do. There's been a lot of insight. There's been a lot of carry over to the media so that we could project that to the fans. And not only that, they will also have let the fans know too, on, how great things are in the locker room this year, because I felt like that was a huge curtain that was over the entire program that we weren't able to see into a lot. So
Yeah,
this
we
year,
you know we heard a lot of rumors,
yeah,
but rumors are. I've always said I don't traffic in rumors. I'm not TMZ.
mm-hmm,
What we try to bring is the truth. If we
yeah,
don't know the truth, we don't speculate too far. We'll tell you what we're hearing, but don't state it as as a definite fact. I mean, obviously you know very well you were hearing some stuff this weekend about Landon Jackson,
yeah,
and we couldn't get it confirmed. So, there's no reason to throw it out there.
yep,
Dude went out there and I got double teamed a lot, but, I thought played well again. It's interesting the way with this new media, as we call it, everybody is a writer, and
yeah,
that's fine, but also, you gotta trust. And I'm not just talking about us. You got to trust who you follow. And if you mess the trust, then that's a problem with the subscribers.
exactly. And that was one of the things too, because after I reached out to you, and I've reached out to a couple of people. Now, what was so funny about that whole just thing was I was getting information that was conflicting from super good sources. I'm not talking like some Tom, Dick, or Harry that's on Twitter. I'm talking about folks that are in the program, and that's why I didn't come out and say anything about it. And the first thing I did was, whenever I was up in the press box yesterday, that's why I made sure that I took a picture of Landon, and I
Mhm.
also got a video of Landon showing what type of physical shape he was in yesterday, to
Yeah, and
dispel anything that was out there.
having been at this now for 43 plus years, there have been plenty of times that coaches and those around the program have put out stuff as gamesmanship to try to mess up the other team's
Hmm.
uh, game plan and strategy and all that, schematic wise. So it's one of those things you really have to watch. Thought you did a great job with getting the info and making sure the info was accurate and not just putting it right out, obviously.
Exactly, and that's why you have to be prudent about these things, because you see some front runners out there that try to be first and not right. And I think that that's what all of us here at Hogville have done an excellent job at, is making sure. And that's where you and Otis have really given me a lot of encouragement, also some tutelage on that, to make sure that we are right and not first. And that's what I would love to pride myself on too, because that's why I bounce stuff off of you guys. Hey, whatever I hear, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. And I know that you guys do the same thing with me, and or if you hear anything like that, and we do that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, we try to, that we're not in the male models here. We know that. They let us on TV every once in a while, Big Trail Nation and all that. But the
Dudley, I think you froze up there for just a second. So I'm gonna hit this notebook real quick, and if you need to jump in or jump off, then jump back in. Go ahead. But so let's kind of go over this for just a second. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, man, throw those up there as I go through this notebook part. If you have any questions, we'll throw that up there. We'll get this answered in timely fashion here. Let me get Dudley off there for just a second. So, without any further ado, let's go over this for just a moment. So, the notebook part that I've got for this is the things that we have kind of internalized the first 2 weeks of the season. And if you think that this might be contrasting of what you have seen on TV, let me know. Let us know. We'll talk about it, because I think what I have got is pretty accurate, but if not, that's fine. I want to hear your guys' opinions and your sides, because what we see may be different than what you see on TV. So make sure to go ahead and throw those comments up there. So without any further ado, now let's talk about the offense for just a few minutes, okay? Over 1,300 yards of offense in the first two games. If I'm not mistaken, I'd heard Tom Murphy, or it was Rick Schaefer, or Tom Murphy is one of the two, had mentioned it, and I want to make sure I cite the source that I heard this from. The first two games of the season are top 10 yardage games that Arkansas has gained over in Arkansas history. So the offense can score. We've seen that. Now let's bring.
All right, okay. Dude, I love computers and hate computers.
I know.
I just dropped.
I feel you. That's what happened to me too, because all of a sudden I had everything up, and then it brought it up Google or Chrome, and then it just went away, and I had to restart my computer earlier. So first thing I want to talk about, Tom Murphy had mentioned up in the press box yesterday that Arkansas's offense in the first two games is top 10 in school history, and as far as yards racked up. So we know the offense can score. 31 points yesterday, 70 against UAPB. They can get lots of yards. So I feel like that's not the problem. And I think that's some of the Bobby Petrino effect. I think that there are better weapons on campus as far as the skill possessions minus the wide receiver group, because let's face it, the wide receiver group is pretty much the same as what it was last year. It's just that now they've got somebody that can distribute the ball a lot better.
Yeah, self-inflicted wounds obviously were the biggest reason they lost yesterday. They are a much better offense that starts at the top. We know that the offense has great respect for the offensive coordinator. That was apparently and reportedly, as we have said, not the case last year. And, with Coach Dan Enos, who I still think is a good man and obviously been a great coach over the years. I think I understand he's a consultant in Florida now. Yep. But it's they've left some yardage out on the field too. In the first half yesterday, and in the second half, you don't have the 73-yard interception return. And Colin Oliver, who made the hit on Talon, certainly forced that play. It was his last play of the season, apparently. As he got injured, you hate to see that, especially for a young man as talented as he is. And then the friendly fire on the punt return, and then just the first quick pitch of the game, Jaquindon just didn't watch it in, and those three plays, as much as anything else schematically or whatever happened the rest of the day, caused them to lose the ball game. Otherwise, they were dominant in the first half on the line of scrimmage. Did not execute as well in the second half. As Coach Gundy talked about, they made a lot of adjustments. At halftime, he gave his coaches credit for making those and being better in the second half after getting outcoached in the first half. But going back to your question about the offense, there's better skill players all over. I think different, more versatile ones. You're never going to hear me bashing KJ for how he played on the field. That was just his style. But it's a different looking quarterback back there, and you've certainly got to worry about a big play on the quarterback's legs a lot more this year than this one runs away from you instead of running over you. And the Jaquindon Jackson has obviously yesterday proved. Just yesterday, he was the best back on the field. Ollie Gordon, is the best player, and all that. Limited him to 49 yards, with some of a lot of those coming in the fourth quarter. But it's a better football team, but it's still one heck of a schedule. I'm still not ready to get off 4-8, this year. But that was such a heartbreaking loss for them yesterday, because you get a chance if you got out of that one to be 3-0. Headed to Auburn and to Texas A&M after that. Now you're back on this same narrative, because you're right where you thought the odds makers thought you were going to be, 1-1.
Yeah. Yep. So another piece I touched on is turns the ball over too much. Have ball security issues against UAPB. Now they really reared their ugly head yesterday with 4 drops, two that actually were fumbled and turned over to the offense, to the defense, and then you also had the pick six, uh, which is something that this team proved yesterday. They can overcome some turnovers with the fact that they're so powerful on offense, but they can't and I don't know if there's really any team in college football that could overcome five total turnovers, because when there is some parity whenever you start to get to the power five on the top half of most of these conferences, and you cannot have those many turnovers and expect to win at the same time.
Yeah, and you've got to, I listen to a lot of the other teams' radio during games, because I do obviously do locker room and stuff like that, and I want to get a handle on what they're doing. They were making a pretty good point yesterday. Maybe one that a lot of people don't want to hear, but once that game got in the second half and things started going wrong, Oklahoma State knows how to win football games. Now,
Yeah.
Alan Bowman and his pistol firing was
Fire,
stupid.
yeah.
Yeah, but also it was, the throwing down the running back was not cool either. So you had, the teams make it, but their announcers were talking about how Oklahoma State has been in position down before to come back and win and has done it. Arkansas has been in a position a lot of times and not been able to win in those situations. 6 one-score game in the past 2 years. That's a hump they've got to get over. And again, I think that the offensive coordinator being back is a great deal for them.
Yep.
And the defense, you're just going to have to all work together. But it's you have to learn how to win.
Yep. The communications department with Oklahoma State made a great point yesterday after the fact. They said that was the fifth straight win against an SEC opponent that they faced, and also that's the third straight 14 or when they've been down by 14 points or more. That's the third straight comeback win that they've had.
Yeah, there's certainly a better football program right now. Arkansas still leads the series 29-15-1, and Arkansas had won the last 5. But as we know, the last one was so far back that Lou Holtz was coaching Arkansas, and Jimmy Johnson was coaching Oklahoma State in 1980.
I'll tell you a lot. Yeah, I want to talk about this too for just a minute. I think Taylon Green's not as accurate that we might have thought he might be. We see it in practice, but I don't think that it's translated so much onto the field. And I think that he kind of rushes himself a little bit.
That's some happy.
He gets happy feet and tends to throw off his back foot sometimes. And I think that that's where you see the ball sail a little bit high, a little bit wide. But here's the thing. The wide receivers are good, and they're good enough to make him, make those a completion still, even though no matter how tall or how high the pass is or how far behind, these guys are getting back there and making sure that they're hauling those in.
Yeah, these first 2 games, what I've seen is he has made great throws on difficult throws and made some bad throws on what should be simple throws. And that is, he's got a great quarterback coach to help him refine that. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as he's going to be down the line. Obviously, he's going to face tougher defenses than these first 2 down the line when they get into SEC play. And by the way, Oklahoma State should be in the SEC too.
I think so.
Kick Vanderbilt out, and
Hey, and if they're looking for a school that you're trying to bring in for educational purposes, why don't you bring Georgia Tech back in, add in Oklahoma State with it, kick Vanderbilt out, and I'm sure we could find somebody else that we could kick out too, and bring those 2 schools back in. Because, I mean, let's face it, Georgia Tech was an original member. I mean, that's something to say.
Or if you're going to go to 20, like, everybody keeps saying, go ahead and bring Oklahoma State, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and somebody else in there.
I think so. One of the things that I noticed yesterday, and you had touched on it with Ollie Gordon, the run defense of Arkansas is elite. It really is elite, because you can't sit there and have a guy that gained 1,700 yards yet last year, 21 touchdowns, has all 5 starting offensive linemen back that are 6-year guys. Go in there, and your defensive front 7 completely mauled them. approach that Travis Williams and that defense had yesterday, that was the perfect game plan, making sure to keep everything in front of them, don't sell out, don't over blitz, and make sure that you got a spy on Ollie Gordon at all times, because Alan Bowman was no threat. So the game plan that they had for Ollie Gordon was worked to perfection yesterday.
Yeah, Arkansas did a great job in both halves of limiting Ollie Gordon's runs, both at the point of attack and him, uh, you know, changing directions and getting yards that way, which he's done a lot of over his career there. You got to give credit to that. Obviously, they got to get better in pass coverage, and there were some penalties that were interesting. I didn't think the SEC crew did a great job either way. Obviously some plays might have hurt Arkansas, some plays might have hurt Oklahoma State. I thought Mike Gundy was very right to be upset about the illegal procedure penalty. That was just a tight end going in motion. And he called out Steve Shaw after the game, who's now the director of officials in NCAA. That and the illegal formation they have in the NFL now, are just you're overpicking too much. And to me, that just looked like a football play.
Yeah.
If he had lost, he would have gone off even more than he did at the tail end with that play.
I mean, that could have been a UCA ASU type of ending if they really. It could have definitely went that way, where there was a blown call that did cost a game. That was not something that would have, or that was something that would have led to a score. It was close. It didn't happen though. Sam Pittman touched on it yesterday. Field goal kicker, not SEC ready. I mean, I was sitting beside Bob Holt yesterday, and he was looking, and we saw the 45-yard field goal that went through. He said, as he saw it in the air, "Oh my God, I don't think that's going to make it." And then all of a sudden, it barely squeaked over the uprights there. And by the way, that was my dog.
Yeah, that second one you're talking about was a wolf, I guess.
Yeah.
Pictorial comments there. Yeah, it is. Arkansas's had some great field goal kickers over the years. Obviously, Kim Little, you got to a certain area, you knew that he was going to be able to take care of things. You got to give Ramsey credit for hitting the one that, at least got him into overtime. But you've got to be, once you get to the 42 or the 35, excuse me, and you have a 42, 52-yard field goal, you got to be able to make those. So many of those were missed over this weekend. Arkansas has gotten some kickers coming in, for next year. Matthew Shipley, I'm sure, will get a chance again this week to win back that job. It's just, I know that I wrote a story about Coach Petrino said he doesn't even look at the kickers, don't want to hear about the kickers. And I know that was because they only made 26 or 36 last year at Texas A&M when he was the offense coordinator there, cost them some games. And certainly you could argue that the one missed field goal yesterday allowed, Oklahoma State to stay in it and, have the opportunity. Arkansas didn't have the opportunity to win at the end. They just had the opportunity to tie it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think that you're going to see a gunner on a punt get anywhere near Isaiah Satania for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I guarantee
that. I love the kid. He's a fantastic player. You got to catch it, though. Still got to catch it.
Yep. That, and also, you can't have Cross Johnson getting blocked into the guy. He really wasn't even blocked into him. He just kind of was shoved a little bit, and then he rolls right into Satania. I don't think that that might be a problem too much longer, because Scott Fountain's a great coach, and I have a feeling he's going to have a quick job of fixing some of that stuff.
Yeah, gotta have better communication back there. It might be surprising to some that I returned punts in high school for Newport. By the way, Newport 66, Batesville 24 this weekend, and the resumption of the series. It's now called the White River Bowl, 99th straight or 99th meeting of the two there. I was pretty happy about that. Caught that on TV here.
I'd love to see the crop dusters fly over too. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's just Newport, baby. We're up front. Always glad to watch them play and win, and certainly have a lot of history there. But the one of those things that you got to be in a situation to put yourself, no matter what sport, put yourself to win. You can't make mistakes, or it's going to come back to haunt you. And when you have a team down, you've got to just drive them into the ground. That didn't happen yesterday. No. We'll see if it happens later in the year.
And last point that I do want to make, and this is a huge difference from what it was last year. You saw multiple running lanes large enough to drive a semi through that Jaquindon and also Talon took advantage of yesterday, where they were able to make chunk plays on the ground. The reason why, it's the offensive line. I feel like their run game is elite. I think the pass game is getting there. They're having some trouble picking up some blitzes whenever they get overloaded on one side, or shifting the pocket, or Talon moving the pocket a little bit. But when it comes to run game, I think that you're starting to see maybe some Houston Nutt style uh, run games, or run totals at the end of a game, where you have 200 to 300 yards of rushing, because this team is able to do that. It's just they got to have a little bit more balance.
Yeah, and I think you're going to add a healthy Rashad Dominion into that mix. As he continues to get healthy, which I think will help increase that. I think Rodney Hill is a good, versatile back, but Dominion and Jaquindon and Braylon Russell, who's 253 pounds, are guys that can, that, man, 4th and 1. I mean, let's just get to it. You got to get that. And certainly Oklahoma State did a great job in stopping that thing. But I think maybe you needed one of those bigger guys in there to get that taken care of.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the thought is to redshirt Braylon, but have him play in 4 games, meaningful games. I mean, it would be hard to just bring him in there for one play where he's a fullback. I mean, I'm sure that Bobby has got something in his arsenal where he has got some guy that's lined up as a fullback, and then giving Jaquindon the ball, or having that 6'6" frame of Taylon Greens just outstretch a little bit. But like you said, at the end of the day, they have got to be able to make that push on a 4th and 1. And you started to see some of that, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3s, where Arkansas was picking up 5, 6, 7 yards. We didn't see that last year. We're starting to see that this year. But in crunch time, when it came down to it meaning the most, they couldn't get it yesterday.
Right. Since this is down important, before we get off here, I wanted Cameron Harrison her and her teammate did a great job, with the under 18 with
USA softball.
Ella McDowell, and 6-0. Ella was the MVP of the C division, and Cam went out and pitched 7 innings without any runs. So I want to give them some love. We also got the schedule in Friday's story about baseball. It's also got the schedule for fall baseball. That's going to start with their scrimmages on the September 20th, and we'll have plenty of stuff about that as we go along as well.
Has Courtney announced if they're going to do any fall softball by chance?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have 6 different games or scrimmages they've got set up with some outside opponents, including a couple of games in Tulsa.
Ooh. I want to see how they can fare against Wichita State, because I feel like them and UCA have kind of been bugaboos for the softball program the last couple of years.
Yep, the UCA has had a great program, and came up here and won that game, and again, I love the fact that they're playing in state schools now. That may make I may not be in the majority of that, but that's just how I feel. So,
yep. Oh, there are actually more people that are starting to warm up to that fact than I think some believe, because they start to see all these other teams, UCA, A State, Euler, whoever it happens to be, whatever sport it happens to be in, there's not that divisiveness that used to be there amongst the state, where it was everybody else versus Arkansas, or Arkansas versus everybody else, and the thought that either they should be playing against each other or not. So I think that as time has eroded some of those feelings, I feel like you're going to start to see more and more of that come about.
Yeah, and speaking of matchups, we all want to see Arkansas and Memphis get back to playing to each other, but Penny Hardaway may not be over there. Fired 4 of his coaches the other day, or let them go, or they stepped away after an anonymous letter got sent, and they turned over to the NCAA about some improprieties in their program. As one writer put it, he's had 2 top-ranked classes and won 1 NCAA game. And let's be honest, that's what it is about at the end: getting in the NCAA tournament, getting as far as you can go. I'd like to see that rivalry kick back up. But we'll see who the head coaches are during that time.
Yeah, that might be. I was surprised that he made it through the end of the week, because some of these things, if there was, if there was fire where the smoke was being found, uh, those sorts of things, I don't know. It's almost like Penny was trying to reincarnate Blue Chips again a little bit.
Yeah. But here's the thing, man. If you fire everybody, you have nobody to be the interim coach, so you'd have to figure that out before you let them go. So,
what about a manager, head coach, a team manager, head coach? I think that you have a soft spot for that. It might happen.
Yeah. What's interesting is I've told this story before. When Penny Hardaway called Arkansas to let them know he was staying in Memphis, which I think everybody was pretty sure. Yeah, he was. I was in the office and saw the disappointment, from them during that time. But yeah, that was interesting. Man, we thought talking season was over, but it's not. We got plenty to talk about right now, don't we?
No doubt, there it is. It is. Well, Dudley, I'm going to get you out of here. Got a full slate of NFL games on the 12 o'clock hour now. You guys can head over to those and watch those and kind of kick back this Sunday. And we'll see everybody next week. Otis and I'll have our show at Torchies at 7 o'clock on Thursday. And then it will be the air of the brand new Arkansas pregame show with my co-host Marshall Foreman and Torchies and Fayetteville, 2 hours before the kickoff of Arkansas and UAB. So kickoff is at 3:15, so we will go live at 1:15. So either hop on the YouTube channel, go over to Torchies, get some tacos, catch us over there, say hey for just a moment, and we'll be talking some football, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Well, Dudley, man, thank you for jumping on with me today, and y'all take care. And this has been the Arkansas Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson. Y'all take care. Go Hogs.